Hey, it's John, and today we are swapping in a TJ Rubicon 44 into a 91 Jeep Cherokee. Stay tuned and go wheel. So we're swapping in a TJ44 today in my buddy Bill's rig. You can see right here, getting the axle under the rig was the easiest part of the whole job, getting the old axle out. They've already seen better days, but it still works great. On this axle, just the stock mounts, but on this axle, I don't know why we did this, but we cut off his old mounts and welded on these Rufftuff shock tabs a long time ago. The only thing I could think of is I think I remember you broke a shock mount. I think this will be a really nice addition to having the 8.8 in the rear, the 231-300 doubler. He's got 110-to-1 double low range. The peace of mind of just being able to leave the front open and then also having a full case locker versus an open carrier with the lunchbox. It's a huge upgrade in like every way. I know people are gonna complain about why did we do a TJ44 low pinion over a JK44, and we really didn't wanna do any more fabrication work. We didn't want to change out the lug pattern, have to buy new rims, new tires. We'd have to modify a totally different track bar, have to modify a drag link. Neither of us have time or effort to do all of that. And the cost would be extremely high because we'd have to swap in the rear JK or JL 44s. We'd be modifying the rear, cutting it up, welding on new perches, getting rid of the coil stuff. And so the TJ44 seemed like a sweet spot for like, yeah, it's stronger. Yeah, it's low pinion, but it's way stronger than the 30. It's about 20-30% stronger in low pinion, even though high pinion is stronger up front. There's all kinds of videos on the internet talking about why high pinion is stronger up front than low pinion. But I think the 8.5-inch ring gear trumps the low pinion 44 is about 20-30% stronger than a high pinion 30. Some people say that's negligible. I see lots of guys on Wagoneer low pinion 44s running 37s and lockers and beating on them, and they don't break very often. I think the TJ44 really is like good combo of price point, bolt-in, and strength in the locker, the same gear ratio. I think if the TJ44s were really expensive, it wouldn't be worth it because you could either just buy a crate axle from Curry or Dynatrack or East Coast Gear Supply. There would be a price point where you just buy JK or JL 44s from a Rubicon and swap them in. It would be cheaper, but it'd be a lot more work, like labor-wise. And we were trying to do this in like a day and a half, 2 days. I think bang for the buck, it's probably the best upgrade for XJ if you're just not trying to go nuts, you know. And I think up to 35s, even 37s with the 8.8 in the 44, he'll be fine. All right, we're just disassembling the front axle, taking off the 36 mils first. Leave it right there. Just leave it on in case. So we like to use a big impact, 36 mil. Took the cotter pins off and the little emergency washer thing. It just takes a little bit of time to fish those out. Also, okay, so today we're going to be installing on a TJ44 that's going to be going into an XJ with a tie rod that's been flipped over the knuckle, and we're gonna need to raise the sway bar mounts up. So we got these from Rufftuff, and they're like 37 bucks. Also, getting ready to put the Rufftuff sway bar extension brackets on. I had to do some notching to clear because his coils don't sit right. This side, I still gotta finish cutting off this one. We're also making little mini control arm skids right here out of some 2-inch flat bar quarter wall that are gonna sit like right here, just to give a little bit of, just to tie these control arm mounts in a little bit and give us a little bit of protection. And then we got the Rufftuff upper control arm brace bracket chinga. So I always like to loosen the axle nuts first while it's on the ground. It's just easier with the tires up in the air. They're more likely to spin on you. And then from there, we got to jack it up, get it on jack stands, and then drop the tires. And then from there, you know, disconnect the control arms, the shocks, the steering, unhook the brake calipers, hang the brake calipers up, and we should be good to go. So here's his driver's side, and it barely clears, but it does clear at full lock both directions. And we hacked the living heck out of it last time to clear the coil and to clear the tie rod. And then I think we literally took a scrap that we'd cut off, and I just really quickly welded it on the outside to thicken it up. And it's been holding up just fine. It's strong. But it gets super, I mean, look how thin that is. It necks down. And right here, it's like half an inch thick. It's like that thick right there.
But the coil's way off.
The coil's way off though. And we might have, there's no way we built it with the coil here because it's hitting the coil now. We wouldn't have built it hitting the coil. So we got a lot to cut and stuff. And he is unbolting the front drive shaft. Yeah, I usually like take that off first and be careful. You don't want to fall on you when it goes. There you go. I mean, just something like that. The drive shaft U-joint caps like to fall out sometimes, so I often tape them up while they're hanging just to be safe. Alright, these little control arm skid things I just got cut up. Got the sway bar on there. We had to notch it right there. Notching is really ugly, don't mind that. But it's all good. We got to clear the coil. We did some measurement. It can stick out this far and be okay. These, hopefully they're not too hot to touch. It should sit in like right there. Yeah. Kind of kick them out a little bit. Like that. All right, we're just getting the cotter pins out of the upper and lower ball joints right now. They suck to get out. Use a punch to punch that through. Yeah, just these are all cut and notched. I got these washers all cleaned up, got all the zinc coating off them. This guy's ready to go, this guy's ready to go. And we got this guy cut and smoothed out so we can put the sway bar on here, sway bar end link on here. Sometimes the cotter pins on the ball joints get seized in there after sitting in there for who knows how many years at this point. And then I'm getting ready to weld over here. I'm gonna weld this guy up. So we're reusing these old XJ steering knuckles on the TJ44. And so we pulled the unit bearings. We're gonna reuse the unit bearings and put the new shafts in there. And we gotta get these off. And yeah, look at this steer. These cotter pins are like just messed up. This axle seal's been leaking pretty bad. We've changed the inner out a couple times. It's got the CAD axle housing, so the inner seals are kind of a guess. We've tried a couple different ones and they just don't work. And yeah, so you got to pop off the shocks, stabilizer. We got the steering mostly off. Get these really clean, yeah, with like a wire brush, because if they get grit in there, the pads get stuck, and the pads will wear a groove in there. Disconnecting the drag link right here, using a puller. We're gonna mock up the steering with the knuckles on this guy. That way I could figure out all the clearancing we have to do for the high steer for the sway bar since we cut off the old one. See my really terrible welds on this upper control arm mount. Skid here, sway bar. Old cotter pins were like super rusted in there. We fought them for a while, but you want to give up quickly because you're going to be fighting it for hours. And we just drill them out. We were able to kind of pry out the one tip of one. It was hammered all the way in there. Like pry it out just enough, cut the break the round tip. The other side was totally mangled. We had to cut him off. So we were hacking away at this guy, and he's getting thinner, but he is 3/8. So I'm going to do a little more hacking, and then we're going to put a spine on one or both sides. Maybe even just use the scrap steel that's here to do it. Honestly, I don't care. It doesn't need to look pretty, but it's got to clear that tie rod with the high steer. So we just drilled out the track bar bushing in the drill press right over there, because this hole on the TJ44 is a 1/2 inch hole. It's nice and tight, and we don't want to put the factory, I don't know where the bolt went, but we had a factory 10 mil bolt, which is way too small. So I got to weld up a flag nut real quick for this somehow. Great. And that's where we're at. How's it going so far, Bill? There we go.
Looks good.
We're getting there. Getting ready to put the knuckles from the 30 onto this TJ44. And then we got to find the clearance on the steering so I could put the clearance sway bar relocation high steer thing. We basically I took the scrap that we'd cut out the front and just welded it over it like a little spine because it got really thin right here, but it's all 3/8. Welds are pretty ugly, but whatever. We cut off the old sway bar mount. That's gonna go right here. All right, the axle's out. Probably should have had the tripod set up while we were doing that. Arms are left on there, shocks. It's got a lot of brake lines, so brake calipers on the floor. Bill's gonna pop the cover on the 44. It's already been pulled recently. Did they reseal it?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, they did? Why is it leaking?
Didn't do a very good job. Oh, they did not
there we
seal
go.
it.
Actually, we need to figure out the lines too. So like which one's a vent tube. Oh, I know that upper one right here, that's the tube for the locker right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's our locker tube, and then this looks like, this is just a vent tube. You can see the hole right there.
Mm-hmm.
We can get up in there. So. Okay, so this one, so there's 2 tubes. So that's for the locker. That's the vent tube. It's on this side, not that side like the 30. We had to add material back here to clear the coil. This is part of the old sway bar mount. I am going to jimmy rig a flag nut. I'm gonna, the nylock plastic's gonna burn out, but I'm just gonna drill a 3/4 inch hole right here, hammer that in there, tack weld it on, cut this out, and bend it to kind of match this. And that's kind of the plan. Let's see if we can get it. We are close. Okay, that's 3/4. Is that bigger than what we just used? Did I just use 11/16? That might do it. That might do it. Still, I mean, it's almost there. I might be able to file that away. Got that little diff cover guard. We just threw some right stuff on the diff housing. There you go, it goes on just like that, yeah. This has got to come down a little. Here's the old axle, the Rufftuff sway bar end links on it that we welded onto the old ones, which we should have done that today because these space everything out enough to where the coil's clear. And this, same thing on this side too. You can see it's all cobbled together, but we got to drill a hole right here and mark it or whatever for these guys. Next. Oh man, every single one of these castle nuts is off the cotter pin thing. So the question is, do I back them off? All right. We got to take these shocks off because we had different bushings in there before. What do we do with your Jeep here?
Well, I had a high pinion 30, which was a cat axle. This is a 91 XJ, and we could never get that passenger side to seal up. It was constantly leaking. We had 3 or 4 different seals we tried. We actually put a seal in backwards. That worked the best. But after some wheeling at Sourgrass last year, it just started pouring out. So I figured, well, we got to do something. I was thinking about getting another 30, but you know, it's got a lunchbox up front. I wanted to go with the selectable. So I found a hell of a deal on this TJ44 front axle, which has a locker in it, so selectable already. So
and the same gears you're running.
Same gears, so you know it's going to be a quick and easy. Even though we had to play around a little bit with some things, it's still a much better conversion than going with a crate axle from Curry or whatever. Which would be 3 times the cost. So good little application. The axle actually went in really quick. We just had a lot of prep work. Jonathan did a lot of welding with the upper control arms and lower control arms. Put some gussets in there. Also had to make a flag nut for the track bar because the original one was 10 mil, I believe, and the new one is 1/2 inch. So we got a little, that's the original, little bitty little flag nut.
And then here's our new setup that actually looks terrible, but we had to modify it as we went.
So,
because it wasn't clearing.
So you can tell how beefy the new one is. So it's going to be a much better design. So better all the way around. Got a little more oomph to the rig now. And this has a doubler in it. We have a 231-300 doubler.
Both with stock gears?
With stock gears. So
there's a video talk about that.
Yeah, we have a video. It kind of goes over what we did at Sourgrass last year.
There's a video on the install.
Yeah, there's a video on the install.
We must have, we clearanced it more right here, but we didn't need to, I guess.
Well, it had to go up higher.
Yeah.
See how?
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, look at the clearance we have. So we've hacked the living crap out of this poor sway bar mount, but it's the best we could do. It's got to clear the high stair. It barely clears at full lock, and then it barely clears the coil. And we just took a scrap piece of 3/8 that we cut off of it and just butt welded on the outside. It looks like crap. Go ahead and judge my welds. I don't really care. It's going to hold up just fine. We did the same thing on the Dana 30. It's been holding up for many years. But yeah, now it's time to try to weld this thing in there. The steering's torqued. The control, you got the uppers torqued?
Yeah.
Uppers,
well, not torqued. They're tight.
Yeah, hit them with whatever.
Yeah, I hit them with that one, and I checked them with the.
Okay, that's probably fine. It's a lot of steering clearance, especially because that 44 hangs lower, so your tie rod looks super high, which it is. That's just cool. All right, so you could see roughly how much bigger and beefier the 44 is over the 30. It's massive. It's also low pinion. But one thing we did not anticipate is that it's actually 4 to 4.5 inches longer from the axle center line to the pinion yoke center line. So the ZJ V8 drive shaft we had in the front, it's 34.5 is way too long. We have that's not it, but we have a XJ Auto front shaft that should be 30.5.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to put that in. But yeah, looking at this guy, the axle center line to pinion yoke is about 9.5, 10 to 10.5 inches in that range. I was eyeballing it. Whereas on the 44, it's 14 to 15 in that range. So it is substantially larger, much bigger housing, much beefier, and much longer. Right here? Oh, right there? Okay.
Don't want it around your head.
Yeah, I'm like paranoid as fuck. Give me a one of those picks or punches. Oh yeah. I think. Oh wow. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Watch out. I might need you over there to hold that up in case it starts to fall down. Okay, we're kind of getting in there. So right there. Don't touch it. Actually, it looks pretty good right there. Might stick some grease. Here goes nothing. Let's see what we can see. It looked. This is where I think it's going to get a little tricky. Is I need to be able to kind of get under it a little. Like see what I could see without smacking my. That's where I want you. You're holding this, right? You're holding that up. Okay. Higher or anything? Oh yeah, push. Oh wow, we gotta go over a lot. Okay, push the rig over a ton. We're getting there. So we had to push the rig over a ton. It shifted when we turned the wheel because we forgot we didn't have the track bar hooked up. Here you go. Here's the impact. I'll put the. Here's the impact. I'll put the wrench on this side, I guess. Let me watch my head. Oh wow, it's a tight fit. This is a really tight fit. I can't really see at all. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, go. Wait. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, I can't. Go ahead. Track bar is on with spray. So we got a lot of stuff off the list. We still got to plumb the air lockers. We got to check toe and caster. We got to mess with the bump stops, and we got to fill the diff. And then we got drive shaft fuckery. This is a XJ automatic front shaft. I had put a new U-joint in it and had put a, this was actually your spare rear, by the way.
Yeah.
So now you need 2 more XJ auto fronts. One for the, actually just one. It would work front and rear.
Or any of those.
Those are all way too long because those are all ZJ V8s.
Way too short.
That's your old front. That is way too short. Like that's way. We should probably clean all this up, get all this out of here, and then start. Maybe I'll start taking this U-joint flange off, and maybe you just fill the front diff, and that'll be the start of the drive shaft stuff. And then you could also start popping the, or you can start taking the drive shaft off at the axle side. And then I'll do this, and then we'll still just do the front diff like later. Yeah. So next we got to take off this flange, and hopefully this front drive shaft works. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Well, that wasn't too bad. Filling up the front diff. What gear oil are you using? Valvoline 7590 synthetic. Cool. These are the air locker pumps. This is the front air locker pump. I don't know what this does right here. I don't know if this is a vent or a blow off. It was tapped into this T right here, and it says rear something on it. So I don't know what that means, but I know we got this, and I don't know what this does. And that's the rear pump. We're gonna try to figure out how to wire this up. Bill is gonna pull the rear drive shaft, front drive shaft. Gonna cut apart this wiring and leave enough on there in case we need it. So everything I read online says to add power and ground to this 5-volt circuit. Don't reuse these, just tape those off. So I'm making a template out of a cardboard box, just roughly where I can mount this thing, get the holes drilled out. That's the bracket that it uses. I'm thinking it'll fit in here somewhere, like maybe right on that fender in there. We'll see. Template right there, marked through with a silver Sharpie. I'm going to drill out right there, and then should be able to mount this thing. Already drilled out these 2 holes. We're gonna find out right now if that template worked or not. I'm gonna see if this thing actually bolts up and mounts with the washers or stuff.
No, it wasn't.
Damn it. I think 2 out of the 3 work.
Oh, good.
Well, we just got back from Napa because I did not know that the TJ Rubicons use a 1330 U-joint, so we grabbed a 1330 to 1310 U-joint to keep this show moving. And we didn't get Spicer or Nepco, but UJ353 SKF. Yeah, we're gonna have to swap the front U-joint on the spare drive shaft we had, which is an XJ automatic front, which is probably sitting somewhere around here. I don't know where. It's on the ground somewhere. Oh, so keep moving. Can you get? This is all I do. I don't know if there's better, worse ways. Looks a little off center to me. So this is the long side. I cannot see one. That is not going on straight, but this looks straight.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. Trying to get it centered in there.
Mm-hmm.
going to hold the drive shaft a little bit. I think it helps a lot with the hold it strong. Yeah, like really good. Yep. I think I can get this in there. Something moves. Doesn't really matter. Cool, what's in there? I don't like the way that's like set. We're wiring the locker now, the locker compressor. I had a wiring kit that I got on Amazon for 10 or 20 bucks that we're just gonna use that. So we're not gonna use the switch from it, but it's the same type of rocker switch. It's got some wiring that I cut out of the loom. It's got a relay. It's got hot and ground for the locker itself, locker compressor. This is gonna go in the cab somewhere. We're gonna extend these to the battery. And then locker is right here. And all we need to do is basically power this hot and ground and connect it up to that harness that should reach over here once we tie it all together. And that should lock the front axle, I hope. We're gonna tap into the fuse box. There's some open accessory taps that aren't being used that we're gonna use. Should work. This kind of stuff is where shop labor beats out the price of the axle savings if you were to pay shop 2 days later. Yeah. I think that's where like buying the custom housing that drops in. I mean, they'd still have to do some wiring, but I think. All right, we just got done with a ton of wiring. Walker's powered up. I had an old ARB switch that we just wired up to the dash. It's hooked up to a, okay. So, let go. Okay. No, like here, I'm gonna have you turn the switch off. So don't do anything yet, okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, turn it off. Oh yeah, that side just spins. So it works. This side, it spins for, don't touch that. You're not touching that, right? Mm-hmm. See how that's spinning opposite? Mm-hmm. Differential. Okay, lock it up. I can hear the lock. Oh yeah, just locked it up. Oh boy, all this work. It's locked up. That's cool. All right, you could definitely feel the front differentiating. Did we hook it up to a constant hot though? We might have, which means we could have used the battery hot, I guess, whatever. Yeah. I'll show you where, we might have to switch it out. I'll show you where it's at, so if it ever falls out, stops working, check that first. Does it just turn on? It's a constant hot. This is cooling fans, everything else. So one tip on the wiring that I think I forgot to call out is on the locker compressor. There's a red and a black wire, and that's all you need to hook up to a switch for power and ground. I've read on a lot of forums that people say you don't have to use a relay, and it's just a 5 amp circuit, so you can just run a 5 amp fuse and run it off a switched hot or a constant hot. But I just wanted to call that out, and there is a pink and a green wire down here that you probably can't see now because the airbox is in the way, but there's a pink and a green wire that you don't use if you're not putting this on a TJ. And I don't know what those tie to, but there is a sensor in the housing. And I have a gut feeling that maybe that compressor won't come on unless the sensor senses something, or maybe it takes input from the transfer case selector mode. And I think we forgot to call that out. We're on day 3. There's a second line that comes off the locker pump that's like the larger diameter bore, and we're thinking that's an input. And we stuck, actually, this little extra filter that was actually for this a long time ago. This is a catch can for his Dana 300. This filter went to that. So we had this lying around still, and we stuck it on the ends of this, and I don't know what else to do with it. If anyone knows what to do with this, we think it's a air inlet for the compressor. Part of it was that actually was a little loose too. But it wasn't that loose. Like everything was touching. So I don't know. It wasn't loose enough to make me think it wouldn't start, to be honest. So I don't know what's going on. Like, what the fuck happened right here? Why is this pinched under? Everything's all fucking cattywampus right now. Like, this isn't good. Like, you're gonna fuck up all these wires by doing that. It's like... So my process for doing a quick and dirty toe-in adjustment is going about halfway up the tire, marking a line on the front of the tires, the back of the tires, and then we're just gonna measure the distance between that with a tape measure and try to get about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of toe in. And then caster, I usually put an angle finder on the knuckle. If it's not good, I don't think either one of us are in the mood to adjust the control arms because we got to drop them. And we'll probably just let it ride if it's got bad caster, or, you know, maybe less than ideal caster. So, actually looks like it has pretty good caster. Okay. Okay, I just gotta watch my head. So put it up here. It's giving me error. It's unhappy. Whatever. What's the slope of the ground? It goes, I don't know, back 2 degrees. What? I hope that's not right. Wow. It says 13 degrees of caster. Is that? It looks like a lot. It's like 10 right there. Is that right? Oh God, it'll probably those. You know, those knuckles do look kicked way back. Watch out. Let me check the other side. Oh God, it does look kicked way back. It probably drive really straight, but it could cause some steering shimmy if it's too much caster. Of course, it's hard to. Wow, that's showing 11, 13. If I get it straight, it's like 11 on this side. That's a ton of caster. And it does look like it's kicked back a lot. See that? Mm-hmm. Is there that much of a difference between the 44 and the 30 with the way the uppers mount or whatever? Oh, wow. This upper bushing is tearing, dude.
The what?
Your upper control arm bushing on the axle side is torn around on that passenger side, dude.
Really?
Yeah. Like it's shot. It is dry rotted. Even though it's got low miles, I guess the bushing's just 20 years old now. So, yay. Well, you know what to do for those. They just suck to do. But when we did them last time, it didn't take that long. You just take a drill and drill it out. Caster it's a lot of caster, dude. It'll drive really fucking straight, but too much caster can cause issues. Like
what?
I'll try a death wobble, potentially. I mean, if it was like 9, I'd say run it, but it's reading between 11 and 13, which is a ton of caster. And your axle is pretty well centered, I think. Like I don't know if we want to bring in the lowers or the upper. Like we either got to bring the uppers out. It'll help your pinion angle, by the way. So he's got like somewhere between 11 and 13 degrees of caster with the same control arm lengths. So my gut is telling me that with the low pinion 44s from the factory, they probably build in more caster because they're low pinion maybe. Because with the same control arm setup on this low pinion or high pinion 30, he had about 7 degrees of caster. So it added 5 or 6 degrees of caster with the same control arm lengths, which is surprising to me. The lowers have those slots, and we just welded in washers in between them. And so maybe that's part of it too. But yeah, we're torching the lower control arm nuts right now, trying to loosen them up because they're like seized on there. And then we got to drop the lowers and bring them in. And you can actually kind of see how much caster we're dealing with right now, like visually from the opinion. Actually, now that I'm looking at it from this angle, it actually does look like it is cocked down a little too far. So we do need to bring it up at least probably 3 or 4 or 5 degrees. It'll help the pinion angle too, which would be nice. Probably drives really straight right now. We haven't driven it yet, but I think that's too much caster to drive on the road. Okay, I think I got it. Yeah. Torching it to start, I think, made our lives 1,000 times easier. That other side wouldn't even budge, and that, I need to make sure I don't hit my head on this. So the hard part is, do we loosen that side or this side? Because I usually do the axle side. It's just easier to get in, but this might be easier to get back in too. We got to chalk the tires, chalk the front of the rear tires. So help me do that. Get some wheel chalks, chalk the front of the front tires, start moving on that because we got a lot to do. Luckily, toe-in's pretty easy. I'll check that afterwards. Get a smaller jack stand, put it under that arm, please.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Which side are you going?
Let's do this side first, I guess.
This side?
Yeah, let's do passenger side first. We want to bring them in equal. This guy. Like, don't put it like, we need it like just enough so we're, okay, so that came out. Give me the sledge and give me a rag. Okay. Cool. So now we need to be really meticulous about the amount of turns we're doing to get it in there. It looks like, I think, you have no idea how many of these won't budge. This one looks like it's budging, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's actually good.
Okay, so that's 1. I mean, we got to make some big cuts, so 2. Let's go 3. And see what that does, because that's still like that's a lot more than I would normally do, but we have to make a big jump because you're like 5 degrees off. All right, so we're gonna go in. That's 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. So that's like about 1/4 inch. If you could push just a little bit, not a lot.
Backwards?
Yeah. Right there. A little more. Little more. Right there. There we go. Oh, wait, nope. Yep, cool. Measure, caster is the imaginary line that is perpendicular to the upper and lower ball joints. And he was at like 13 degrees, which is crazy high. We brought the lower control arms in 4 turns. Coils seem to still be in a good spot. Now we're gonna do toe. What I do is I take a silver Sharpie and I mark the tire at the same height off the ground on both sides and then measure that front and back. Just did the front, we need to do the rear. It's 50 and 1/16 in the front roughly. So we just checked toe in. He's got about an 1/8 inch of toe in. I know some people go a little less, they might even go to 0, but it looks like toe didn't change at all. It was probably around there before. His caster was off, like that was a concern. We had to adjust the lower control arms for now. You can do the uppers if you like where your wheelbase is at, but even 4 turns on the lowers was probably no more than a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch of wheelbase adjustment. And he has about 102 inch wheelbase. Stock is 100 3/4, 100.75. So he has a little bit more wheelbase anyways, and it's probably not coming from the rear because we have bastard leaf packs in the rear, so we don't have a stretch in the rear. So that means the front was probably stretched out 1 inch or so anyways. He had around 7.2 before. He's got about 8.4 to 9 degrees of caster right now. And then he does need an upper control arm bushing, at least on this side. You might as well do them both at once. we did see that one tearing, which sucks. It looked fine on the ground, but I don't know, bolting the upper arm up to it kind of showed how rotten and torn the bushing really was. I think we're done with day 3 and he's ready to drive it home. Locker works. We got the alignment checked out. Wiring's good. His car now starts. We cleaned up the battery terminals. A lot of corrosion. One of the positive was it was tight, but it was a little bit loose. Like we could have tightened another turn. Car starts. I don't know. I think he's ready to drive. Cool. Ready to go. Cool. All right. So we thought we were done. We're not done. We're back. We just bought new rotors, new unit bearings, new brake pads. And what we're dealing with is, like, I don't know, 10 to 15 years ago, we had put in that Dana 30. It had 410s. It was from an 84 4-cylinder Cherokee. When we put that in his rig at the time, I can't remember the reasoning. Probably just had really old unit bearings, right? So I think he probably had better unit bearings and maybe had new rotors. I don't know, but we put in his rotors and unit bearings off his 91. And the issue that we had for a long time is that the pads, literally because the spacing's different, the pads were sitting right like halfway off the edge of this. Like the little part where the pads grab was barely on these caliper brackets. And we literally never understood really why. Because I thought if we kept the same rotor and pad, or sorry, same rotor and unit bearing combo, things would be fine. Well, we put one of the pads on backwards, apparently, in the last 2 12-hour days of wrenching, and he went to leave, got on the road, heard some pretty loud grinding when he was braking, and we got home, got back here, and we put a pad on backwards. 25 years of wrenching for me. I've never done that once, but I guess, in the middle of the axle swap and swapping bushings into the shocks and welding up sway bar mounts and control arm gussets and leaving to get a 1330 to 1310 U-joint for the front drive shaft, because these have 1330, wiring up the air locker, all the stuff. We put that pad on backwards. We verified that the 89 unit bearings won't fit. No, sorry, the 91 unit bearings, 91 and up unit bearings won't fit inside the 84 through 89 rotors. So that's why the mounting depth is different too. And so we did get everything, including new pads and some gloves. So we're gonna do that right now, but we thought this video was over and we thought we were done because we're both wiped out. We put in 2 12-hour days. This is the 3rd day. I could have easily left that out of the video because it's pretty embarrassing, to be honest. The good side is got a TJ Rubicon 44 front and an XJ over the knuckle steering. It's gonna have new unit bearings, rotors, pads, new shock bushings, dialed in caster today. We spent we did work on it today. We spent the first part of the day dialing in caster because it had way too much caster. Now we're gonna do unit bearings again for the 2nd time. Gotta pop those cotter pins off. Taking the calipers off. 7mm stuff. Calipers have seen better days. I mean, they're still working, but why is it not going on all the way? Oh, God.
It's got that little doodad in it.
This?
Or the axle dip.
I think this has to come off somehow. This ring. I think it's hitting that. Because look at how much further in it is. And I think that is supposed to go over that. That's what I think is going on right now, personally. We had to knock this dust seal off the outers to get this to work. And here's the $1 million question, does it fit? Oh, God. Yep, it fits. Because that should slide in by hand all the way, like it just did. like, oh great, you know, like, oh wow, that's 75, huh? So yeah, I'm gonna hit it with the impact, but not go super hard. Keep going. Okay, right there. I'm gonna torque those other lug nuts. Torque, lug nuts to spec. These are 100 foot-pounds on this one. These are 175 for the axle nut, but I think it's already there. Wow. Oh yeah, you're good. Oh yeah, you don't have to worry about the steering. I actually love the stock XJ style steering. I've never had issues with it. I've had a lot of issues with my JL out there, and something about whatever Jeep did with that style crossover steering, it was blowing through tie rod ends and track bar joints like crazy. We upgraded everything to like WFO stuff and metal cloak tie rod. But on these XJs, you could run like a stock drag link and a ZJ V8 tie rod, $200 worth of steering, and it'll last years. And if you need parts, you can get them at any store. I think the Curry steering is the best, and that will also last forever. But you know, used to be a lot less expensive. Now it's like $700, $800. It used to be $450, you know, 10, 15 years ago. But the stock XJ style steering with the ZJ tie rod, I think, is a sweet, like, bang for the buck. Flip the driver's side knuckle over. So flip it over the knuckle on that side with the Go For It insert. It's I don't know if they're still around. They were big back in the early days of NAXJ, I feel like. And getting that tie rod, you know, another 3 or 4 inches up makes a huge difference. And I think they handle great with that setup. I don't think you need to do crossover. So yeah, thanks for following along this week. If you can, watch another video of ours. Maybe watch the doubler video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff if you can. And got some more videos coming out soon. Always remember, don't put your brake pads on backwards, and don't forget to torque your axle nut and your lug nuts to spec. A44, he's already got 410s. It had 410s. He wanted a selectable locker. We wanted a bolt-on axle. We wanted larger ring and pinion. Larger inner shafts are more of a bonus. His old housing leaked like crazy, and we can never get it to not leak. And when you add everything up, from all the stuff, if we tried to buy 30 spline inner shafts and a 30 spline air locker for a 30 and paid for labor, it would cost, just that alone would cost more than what he paid for the whole axle. And they threw in an extra locker and an extra air pump, and they threw in the air pumps. You know, and this thing only had 40,000 miles on it. The other axle had hundreds of thousands. It was leaking like crazy. The ball joints seemed good, but this only has 40K on the ball joints.